Welcome everyone to the National Conference here in Albury. I really hope you're all having a great time. We're on the wind down now, and I guess really thrilled to be here. I guess I've only got one person to blame for being on the program, and that's myself, so here I am. Thank you to Adam for your talk this morning. I actually think the session that we've put together today with Adam, myself and Sue, I think it's going to tie in really well, and I'm really hoping that everyone's able to walk out of here today and I guess go home, have a look at what you're doing with your programs and be able to take some of the key messages that we've brought here today and implement them at home. Do I go? What have I got to click? Sorry. Side, okay. I didn't work on that bit. Okay, so obviously I'm talking about having a brand identity here today and what a brand identity is. A lot of us, we brand and we tag our cattle, so they are instantly recognisable. But are we doing the same for our businesses? When someone sees your logo, your newspaper or your online advert or picks up your flyer, do they know who it is, who it really is without reading any further? Can they pick up that item and instantly go, I know that this is such and such down the road, or this is that business? At the end of the day, that's what creating a brand identity is about. And when we're talking about branding, I guess it all falls under the auspices of marketing. We have our branding and we have our communications. When we're looking at this, our branding is obviously our business identity, our image, who you are, what you look like, and the feeling your brand that your brand evokes. And then obviously we've got, as part of it, we've got our communications, which was a big part of what Adam was talking about with his thought leadership in PR. We then have to take our brand and engage with our audience. The who, the what, the where, the why. Marketing, branding and communications, they go hand in hand and they should be part of an overall plan or strategy that we have to sell our product. So what is a brand identity? Angus Street actually touched on this yesterday in his presentation when he mentioned about a brand being part of a part of your business's DNA. A brand, it is so much more than a logo on your hat or your t-shirt. Ultimately, a brand identity, it's the way to communicate with the world, to differentiate yourself from your competition and create a brand experience that encourages people to engage with you. Where we're talking about the sum total of how your brand is developed, it's the look, it's the feel, it speaks to people, and sometimes it even is how your brand sounds, tastes, and even smells. Thinking of the sound concept, one thing that I always have playing over in my mind is when you listen to ads or you see ads or you listen to TV, see television advertisements, and then you might hear an ad for that same company on the radio, is McDonald's. They've got a really good music signature that resonates across all of their branding, and I'm standing here now and I can hear that sound in my mind. So it's being able to evoke those kind of feelings and memories in people when you are developing your brand. But when we do come back to the basics of branding, we are thinking about things like specific colours you see and how they can automatically make you think of a seed stock producer down the road, or a logo that's in the shape of a fruit that needs no words to tell you what a brand is. They're the kind of things we're looking at trying to invoke when it comes to our branding process. So why is branding and communications important? There are, I guess, a number of things we need to look at. A lot of time, effort and money goes into your breeding programs to develop your product, so it makes sense that a lot of time, effort and at least a little bit of money should go into branding that product to ensure the market knows you're there. That's when we start looking at the size of your business. It doesn't matter if you're a small producer you're only selling 10 to 20 bulls a year, or if you're someone who's selling upwards of 200 bulls a year. Branding is just as important across all businesses. The industry and the product you're in, or what you're selling, that doesn't matter either. Marketing and branding is just as important at our level as it is for companies like Apple and Toyota and Can-Am, as Adam was talking about earlier. And I do think that the branding opportunity is often missed in the agricultural industry, particularly at a producer level. We've been listening to a lot of speakers over the last couple of days, and particularly like Anthony Paharic and Adrian Richardson talking about how we need to tell our stories. And I guess, again, Adam gave us an insight into how we could be doing that this morning. So I guess that's something I would really like to encourage at a producer level is I think we really need to sell ourselves. We need to sell our story. We need to let the industry and I guess the overall public know what we're up to, and that's going to go a long way to help branding yourself, but I guess also to branding and changing the perception of the beef industry. And obviously that led into my final point there, that it really is important for us to be telling our stories. Whether you're posting on social media 5 times a day, a couple of times a week, it's a great tool, I guess, to be telling our story. So it is such an important and integral part of the whole branding process. Moving on now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the actual branding process itself. Up here, I've got the 6 thinking hats. This was actually developed by psychologist Edward de Bono in the 1980s, and it's still, I guess, very relevant today in the branding process. As you can see here, we have 6 roles, and these roles, I guess, are something that we should all be looking at when considering our branding process. Whether you are a one-man band or you have someone who can, you've got 6 people in your organisation that can wear each of your hats. These roles are such an important part of the creative process. These are the roles that you should focus on when you are developing your brand. If you have a look there, you can see that we need to have logic. That's focusing on the facts. Obviously, optimism. That's where we're talking about the value and the benefits of the product you're selling, telling people, why they should come and buy your bulls and what's good about them. You then need to be looking at it from the devil's advocate point of view. What are the difficulties and dangers in my process? Look at emotion. When you're developing that brand, what emotions is my brand going to invoke? Are people going to engage with it? Are they going to remember it? That's what we're looking for at the end of the day, is the emotional response. From there, we start going to creativity. We're looking at the possibilities and the new ideas and start, I guess, forming what we see, our visual appearance of our brand is going to be. And then, of course, we've got to come back to management. Does everything that we've just looked at in across those roles actually fit in, I guess, with the ideals of the business overall? And are we observing the rules we've created for ourselves? Does it fit in with what we want to do? Oh, sorry, I'm not very good at... We'll get there. And now we're going to start looking, I guess, actually at a branding breakdown, the way we should go forward with developing that brand. There are 4 key areas to consider and form that you can develop your brand that is going to evoke feeling and be instantly recognisable. The first one is to know your audience. To target our customers and consumers, and to do this successfully, we need to examine who we are actually targeting. How old are they? Where do they live? What do they do in their spare time? What is their livelihood? All these things and more will influence how you develop your brand and may be helpful to characterise the different groups of people you are targeting and create a customised approach to each while sticking to that overall branding strategy. So we're looking at the who, the locality, what they do, their interests and their age. Then we need to identify what sets you apart. What makes you or your business individual? What's going to make you stand out? Is it a certain strength in your business, like customer service, or is it how you raise your bulls and they're grass-fed only? It is important to guide people to your brand by showing them what it is about you and you only that is worth them actually coming to your place and looking at you and engaging with you. You also need to look at your competitors. Building a brand identity is all about differentiation, making your brand visible, relevant and unique. However, without a firm understanding of your competitive landscape, it's easy to blend in. Thus, it's crucial to understand not just who your competition is, but how your brand compares in perception and presentation. We then come to, I guess, what a lot of people consider the boring bit, hoping that once you'd left school and uni that you wouldn't have to conduct too much research anymore. But I know we all actually do our research when it comes to making any breeding decisions in our herds or buying a new car or choosing a bank. Developing your brand should actually be no different. I guess I can't emphasise too much more how important it really is to develop this area. We need to inspect, poke and prod until you get to the core of your brand. Only once you have that intimate knowledge, you can translate it into a visual language. This is where you'll start to think about those aspects like colour, graphics, fonts and colours, all coming back together and to creating that overall visual appearance of your brand. Have a look at what your competition has done and see how good branding has helped them or how bad branding is setting them back. You can also research graphic approaches as inspiration for the brand identity you're going to create. It is worth researching colours that will resonate with your business, as different colours, believe it or not, evoke specific emotional responses. There are so many resources out there on the internet where you can actually have a look when you're choosing things like colour that you want to associate and I guess the psychology behind that. And basically you want to gather as much information as you can about what you're trying to communicate with, who your competition is and where your brand currently stands. And then we probably move on to, I guess, one of the most, important areas of the branding process, and that's looking at quality. You have a quality business. You need to have a quality brand that promotes that business, because at the end of the day, the first time people see anything in relation to who you are and what you're doing, that's going to be, when they form their first opinion. And we all know first impressions really do make a really big difference out there. So if you can really hit them with a really good quality branding approach before you've even started, you're a long way closer to doing business with those people. So don't settle for standard. When you finally do get to that design side of your brand, there is no need to settle. If you don't have the skills to create the brand identity yourself, talk to the professionals. Look at outsourcing the design aspect to a good graphic designer, as they're trained in design thinking and they will help you develop a more professional and effective brand. They'll work with you to find the specific elements that elicit the strongest emotional response, trigger additional imagery and help you build a visual playground to go crazy in. And from there, you're going to develop the elements like your video and photography that go along with that design. As I've said previously, your brand at the end of the day is how you distinguish yourself in the marketplace, and it's how people instantly recognise you. So I'm just going to have a look at, some consistent branding that we've used across Angus Australia and how we've managed to do it, across different mediums. We've obviously got some balloons, which I hope most of you saw last night on the tables, across to our website and moving on to some of our brochures where they're not identical, but we've still kept the colour, the font, the style, and it's consistent across all mediums, and we've been able to bring it across from standard Angus Australia promotional material to events like we had with the feature show in Sydney this year. This is just some of the branding we did with Acme Australia in relation to our Gen Angus Future Leaders program, and this was just showing that we've taken that branding, and these were actually, imagery that we'd used across our video production. So keeping in mind that anything we do with our brand, you need to be able to move that across all mediums of marketing as we're moving forward. And moving on to the promotion of our World Angus Forum in 2021 as well. Sorry, I've got to give that a bit of a plug while I am standing up here. But that's just to show that we're keeping that branding consistent across all of the material we're producing in relation to that. And the idea is that it becomes instantly recognisable. And so where to from here? I'm hoping that you will have left not just my session today, but this whole marketing session that we've got in here, being able to use the concepts that have been highlighted to create a branding strategy for your business if you don't have one. or to go home and look at the physical aspects of branding more closely. What are you doing at home? How are you telling your story? How have you built your advertising, social media, videography and photography? And then do some research and identify where you can access the services you need to further any of these strategies. I know that we've got plenty of people here in this room today who are able to deliver these services to you. And I guess another resource that we've got on the Angus Australia website now in our marketing area, we have a number of articles that have been written by our graphic designer, Ebony Sadler-Small, who has been putting them out in the bulletin each quarter, which are a really great resource for people to look at. And then finally, I hope I've been able to leave you with 4 key concepts to think about when it comes to the branding process. And that's quality, consistency, and style. How does your brand make people feel? At the end of the day, your brand is who you are, and we need to recognise that. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Is there any questions for Diana?
Easy done.
Yes.
We hear about brand refreshment. The question really is, how often do you need to refresh your brand?
I'm not sure that there is necessarily, I guess, a magic answer to that. My thoughts and feelings on that is that we're in this day and age with how fast technology is moving. I think we need to be able to ensure when we are designing our brand that it's flexible and can move with the different mediums we're creating. As we, I guess, delve into new programs that we're able to use in graphic design, photography and videography, again, I think it's very important to be able to keep that fluid and keep that promotion happening. But everyone, I guess, takes a really different process when it comes to refreshing your brand. We know plenty, I guess, of cattle breeders, seed stock producers out there that have just taken their logo and they've tweaked it a little bit. It may be something as simple as just modernising a font or changing the colour slightly. Then we've had others that have gone out, completely got rid of their old logo, their colours, and they've just completely relaunched themselves again. So there is no magic answer to that. I guess what you probably need to do is go home and have a look at what you're doing and what you've got and decide, is it modern? Does it fit in with what's happening today? That's why I guess making your colour choices and your font choices way back in the beginning are such an important element when it comes to developing that brand, because you don't want to be spending a fortune refreshing your brand every couple of years. I'd still be looking into what you're doing yearly, don't get me wrong there, but that's where you've sort of got to have that fluidity moving forward with developing your brand, just making sure it's on point, having a look around at what everyone else is doing. That's why we are looking at our competitors. I'm not saying you want to copy your competitors at all, but you just want to make sure you're still relevant and that you're still standing out in the marketplace. So review regularly, pretty much every time you're doing something, just to make sure, I guess, it is on point. But you probably every 2 to 3 years do want to have, a really good hard look at your branding process. What you developed 2 to 3 years ago may not actually suit your business model today. So sorry, it's a very vague answer, but it comes down to what you want to do and how you're fitting in with your business.
Any other questions? Yes.
And we're really happy with it. We're happy with the design, the name, the colours, that sort of thing. But it is quite long, along the lines of something like the land. And so it's a specific font, a specific style. We've been asked to locally sponsor some events. And what we find is that we get, like at, say, the Rodeo, we get above the shoots because we're long and skinny. And so would you suggest maybe when you're coming up with an idea for a logo to have some varied sizes and shapes and try and work that in with your branding?
Absolutely. What you'll find is that if you've ever been involved, I guess, in a community event, or from our perspective with Angus Australia, where we obviously have sponsors that we bring on board, and we're doing, things like our sponsor banner up there, is that when we ask a company to provide their logo to us, they will have a landscape and a portrait version of that logo. So I do think it's very important when you're developing your logo that you can have both options, so that when you are providing it for sponsorship, or you're putting it on your shirt, your hat, your catalogue, your advertisement, that you've got options there, that it fits in with what you're doing, and you don't have to just go in a certain spot because your logo just happens to fit in that area. So I do think it's very important to have both options available. Any more questions? Payback.
Obviously, the last 10 to 20 years, Angus has had the profile with perspective, what are you guys sort of constantly doing, I suppose, in terms of other breeds, snapping deals, trying to get that same profile?
That's a tricky one. I guess the Angus brand has been built up really, really well over the last sort of, 20 to 30 years. And as much as I would like for Angus Australia to be able to say it's all about the marketing and everything we've been doing at Angus Australia, where we are really lucky is that Angus Australia has progressive and innovative members. Angus Australia's progressive and innovative members have been willing to jump on board and try new things, utilise the technologies that are available to them, and have effectively then been able to supply the product that the marketplace has demanded. Hence, that's made it, I guess, easy for me coming in now to be able to tell that story. I know it was a hard slog in the beginning when the likes of Herefords were probably the most well-recognised breed in Australia, and they worked very, very hard to create a great image around meat quality and consistent meat quality. And we've, I guess, been able to build on that now. We're able to, I guess, develop those good news stories, and we do a lot of what you were talking about today. We're regularly releasing media releases out into, out to all the journalists that we've got contacts with. We're always trying to, identify those good news stories, but obviously Angus Australia conducts a lot of research and development, and we've always got these great new, products like Immundex, which we've released while we've been here at the conference. And I guess that's how we're staying one step ahead of our competitors. Like, this has obviously got a lot, this helps us to tell our story, but this is, I guess for me, we've created this consistent branding to stand behind the great product that Angus Australia and our members have. And that's, I guess, where I've been coming from, with making sure we've got that consistent and professional branding, and that's just allowing it all to go hand in hand with our progressive and innovative members. And as we, continue, supply and demand at the end of the day is what it comes down to. So we've been very lucky in that, respect, that our members, at the end of the day, are the ones selling the product and selling the story.